Hi, welcome to my channel, where Please bear with me if I stutter or stammer throughout this video. It's the first video I posted in a few months, so please once again bear with me. But in this video, I want to discuss my favorite pastime, which is reading books. I love the escapism. I like getting to the perspective of the characters, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, all throughout the book. And a couple of the stories I want to discuss today are one by Sylvia Plath, author of The Bell Jar, and the other one, Woman in Cabin 10, author Ruth Ware. First one, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, that was written by her. She's, in my opinion, a very esteemed female author, underrated in my opinion. She was someone who passed away before her prime, before she got to show the world her true talents. And in this book, The Bell Jar, she writes from the main perspective of a young woman named Esther Greenwood. She's a journalist. She lives in a dorm with a few other women, and they write columns for a newspaper together. And throughout the book, I got the feeling the main character, I could feel her isolation and from everybody else, the other women, her trouble forming connections, her distrust of people, her dislike of phoniness and people who didn't own up to their true character. She seemed to really dislike that, and that's something I can relate to. I think that was something Sylvia could relate to too. When she was writing this character, she was really in this book. I think she was really talking about herself. The character also struggles with mental illness and depression, which is something Sylvia suffered from in true life. She, I think it all started for her back when she was a child. At the age of 8 years old, she tragically lost her father. He was sick and passed away, and they were very close. She was a little girl that affected her quite a bit, but she still found her anger and solace in her mother and brother, her two closest relatives. And throughout the book, Esther, we see Esther going through different experiences where she's hanging out with people, her encounters with men, and seeming distrust of men, and this guy she's dating that she really dislikes because he's kind of a womanizer and a player, and he's grew up in a completely different lifestyle than she did. He was more pampered and sheltered, and his mother, kept trying to continuously force them to be together. She thought they looked great together, but she really wasn't feeling him at all. And throughout the novel, we see her slow descent, see her slowly succumb to her mental illness, and she goes through a first attempt where she tries to end her life. She is at the beach with a few friends. She's having a moment where she's completely seems like she's completely given up on life. So she attempts to drown herself in a nearby ocean. It was scary reading the book. I'm aquaphobic myself, and oceans scare me. So I just can imagine going out in that way that she tried to do with the especially in the dark, like floating down to the dark abyss of the waters, not knowing what kind of creatures are down there. And it's nighttime. The sky above you is dark, so that makes the ocean and the water, in my opinion, even creepier. But she was completely fearless, and she tried to. I think when you're on the edge like that and you want to die, fear is irrelevant. Nothing else gets to you. Nothing bothers you. You're just concerned with ending it because you know the pain, the fear will all disappear in a few seconds. I think that's what she was thinking in those moments. The character Esther, but she she doesn't succeed. Um, Afterwards, she seeks out her mother. She seeks to find solace with her mother. She goes to her and tries to live in her house. And her mental, her mental, her mental state has not improved. She still has thoughts of depression. She's still slowly drowning in depression, in the waters of depression. And while her mother's away, that's another thing. Her and her mother don't seem to have a very close relationship at all. Her mother is very she seems very concerned with appearances and putting on a front that if everything looks good, then it is good. It's kind of similar to the movie Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder. If anybody's seen that movie, her parents in their movie they can't handle the fact that their daughter's not perfect and that she may be mentally ill. Back in the '60s, that really wasn't. that really was frowned upon. It really wasn't discussed. It was something to be ashamed of. So they had her locked away and in a hospital, a psychiatric hospital. And in the book, The Bell Jar, the connection between the Esther character and her mother seems is very cold. She seems to care about. She has a superficial fondness for her daughter, and Esther feels at the point that she has nobody. So while her mother's gone, she makes another attempt on her life. She seems another attempt on her life to end her life. She takes a bunch of medication. She goes down to the basement where she's alone because that's how she feels in real life, and she makes it very theatrical. She puts on her favorite. She dresses in all black as if attending her own one. That's her own burial outfit. She picked out her own burial outfit for her funeral and her wake. So the next thing she knows, she wakes up in the hospital. She's very groggy from all the medications she took, and hospitals in those days they really didn't treat mental illness the care and compassion and understanding that people treat it with now. Um, the character she's subjected to different different instances of electroconvulsive shock therapy, and what they did was they strapped patients down into a table, and they hooked their heads up with these what they call it with these two wires. They strapped these two wires to the patient's temples, which were hooked up to a machine, and they would just send bolts of electricity throughout their body. Hurts, very painful. I've always been curious though about electric shock therapy. It does seem very painful and uncomfortable. I'm still curious about it, what that would feel like. And they did it on her without anesthesia, so you can imagine what that feels like. And they do this as an attempt to help these people, and then thinking that electricity will absolve them of their depression or whatever mental illness that they're struggling with. But unfortunately for the character, it doesn't work. She turns into a vegetative state, and her outlook in the world doesn't doesn't improve. There's another patient, another young woman in the hospital ward. Her name is Joan, and Joan tries to form a bond with Esther. And first, Esther's resistant. She doesn't want to have any friends. She just wants to be left alone. That Joan clings to her, and the women's slowly but surely, the women start to bond with each other and form a bond. And Esther doesn't know it at this point. By this point, that's I forgot to mention earlier on in the novel. Esther has had a sexual experience with a man that she was going on a date with, and months later, she discovers that she's pregnant, having his child. But I don't think he knows this. And later on in the novel, Esther abandons Joan and meets this other guy while she's pregnant, while she's about to have her baby, and they have an encounter. And during the encounter, something terrible happens, something tragic happens. She looks down and sees blood, blood dripping down her legs, and she's confused. She doesn't understand what's happening, and it just seems to be it gets worse. More and more blood gushes out between her legs while she's pregnant, and she may not know what's going on, but the readers have an idea as to what's happening to her, and it's that she's hemorrhaging. She's on the verge of losing this child. So she takes a cab back. Esther takes a cab back home, back to the hospital. No, she takes a cab. Sorry, she takes a cab back to Joan's house where Joan lives, and she tells Joan what's happening to her. And Joan calls an ambulance and tries to get her to go to the hospital. And Esther doesn't know this, but this is the last time she'll ever see Joan. Joan was very mentally disturbed. People who are mentally ill, people who have depression, sometimes it only takes one tragic thing to send them over the edge. Unfortunately, this is what happened to Joan. So by the time Esther was out of the hospital, she finds out Joan unfortunately took her own life. Then in the novel, she finds herself going attending Joan's funeral. And it's quite a few people there. That was really sad. That was really sad to me. I felt really sad for her, for Joan. She seemed like all she wanted was closeness. And then you never really know when's the last time you're going to see somebody. She never knew that that was the last time she was going to see Joan. And later on in the book, when the doctors tell her the police found Joan hanging in the woods, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I couldn't understand why she had done it. Could have been a bunch of different reasons why, but seeing what happened to Esther probably was the breaking point for her. And yeah, those were the points that stood out to me in that book. And I just couldn't believe it. I felt very depressing. I felt a little depressed after reading it myself. It was like reading this character, reading the book was like peering through the mind of Sylvia Plath herself, what she was thinking, what she was feeling. It was like this was no semi autobiography. I feel like this was really Sylvia's biography, her chance to tell her story. But yeah, that's the book. That was the bell jar. I did read it. You get the chance. You've been warned. Next book, Woman in Cabin 10, written by Ruth Ware. Starts off with this character named Laura. Her name is Laura Blacklock, but she is a journalist. She just goes by the name Lo. She lives in a flat by herself. It's just her and her cat living alone. And while she's there, early in the morning, not sorry, not early in the morning, sometime at night, she hears a noise outside her door, like someone crashing and stumping around. And she realizes, oh my God, someone's in my house. I'm experiencing a break-in. So she does nothing, but she just quietly waits. The person gets whatever they need, gets whatever they want, and then finally leaves. And she's too scared to go back to her house. After this person is done rummaging around in her flat, they dart out the door. She takes the opportunity to go to her neighbor's house and hide out there. And so her neighbor's sympathetic. She offers her shelter. And while Laura is recovering from the incident, she she gets an email from her boss saying that she wants her to go on this cruise as a journalist, as an investigative journalist, and investigate this high powered couple and the owner of the cruise line. Very rich, very they come they come from they come from a family with a lot of influence and money and prestige. So Laura reluctantly accepts the job. And before going away, she gets into a little argument with her boyfriend over what had happened to her, and she says some hurtful things. I think she was a little hard on him because of his reaction and trying to be sympathetic. She just wasn't ready to accept it. She just leaves and turns him down, and that's kind of the last interaction they have for throughout most of the book. Before she goes on the cruise. So when she gets on this cruise, a lot of it's kind of the cruise on the outside itself. The boat itself is kind of small, but on the inside it's very ritzy, very fancy. It's kind of like a miniature version of the Titanic on the inside. Um, she's given her own cabin room, shown to her own suite. It's very nice. She has a big, spacious bed and her own bathroom and a nice shower and a hot tub on the side of it. And she goes on there hoping to get some rest and relaxation because ever since the break-in, she's been experiencing some insomnia from her PTSD, preventing her from getting any sleep. So, the saying always goes: if something's too good to be true, then it probably is. So I feel like it's too good to be true. Before when she gets on the boat, I get bad vibes already. I remember being, you know, nice smiles and nice smiles plastered on people's faces, robotic behavior, and things don't get weird yet. But as she's on the ship, she meets different people, and she even runs into an old friend from a former magazine she used to work at, who she didn't really get along with, and she's invited. They were both invited to this fancy dinner to welcome all the new guests and the new arrivals, and she's even given her own rack full of fancy dresses. So as she's getting ready, she she puts on her dress, she does her hair, but she doesn't have any makeup. So she goes next door to her next door neighbor in the cabin. She knocks on the door to introduce herself and get to know the person. And when the person opens the door, come to find out it's a young woman, about in her early 20s with dark hair. She's dressed in black gothic clothing. And Lo asks her, "Do you have any makeup I could borrow? Any mascara?" And the girl, at first, she's a little standoffish, but she says, "Yeah, sure, why not?" She gives her a little mascara brush, and she lets her have it. She lets her use it if she needs to. And Lo introduces herself. The girl introduces herself back as Carrie, and the introduction is very brief. Her and the girl both go their separate ways, and Lo applies in the mascara. She finishes getting ready, and she goes down to have dinner with everybody. She sits at a table. She meets she meets this other woman from a different magazine. She's very haughty, has an uppity quality to her, and she doesn't really seem very nice to Lo, but she immediately takes to her friend from the previous magazine. The guy, his name is Ben. I didn't say that earlier. His name is Ben, and she immediately strikes up a conversation with him. And finally, someone clinks the glass in the midst of the conversation. All chatter stops, and then the wealthy owner of the luxury cruise line, introduces himself. His name is Richard Bulmer. He's the owner. He's very well known, and his wife, she also comes from a wealthier family, an even more influential family. Her name is Anne Bulmer, and the main character Lo is a little surprised because the woman she's seen in the magazines and on TV, is very vivacious looking, has color in her skin, has long hair, very pretty. But the woman she's seeing right now, she appears to be very frail. She has a scarf wrapped around her head, and she almost looks sickly as compared to standing next to her husband, who's glowing and muscular and has a body, strong shoulders, and a body made of stone slabs. And they get acquainted with everybody. So everyone's drinking and having dinner. Willow begins to feel tired, and she leaves early. She heads back to her cabin with the intent to finally get some sleep and some shut eye. But as she as she's in her cabin, she tries to get some fresh air on the cabin window balcony. And then she sees someone fall into the water, make a giant splash in the water. Of course, she's shocked. She's frightened by this. She says, "Oh my God, someone just fell on the side of the boat." Then to her left side, she sees two people exiting the balcony. She's becoming even more frantic. "Oh my God, someone's been thrown into the water, and they may have seen me." So she quietly backs back in from the balcony back into her room, and it's weird. All throughout the ship, anyone she ever talks to, they all claim to have not known the girl, to have not seen the girl, and they've tracked the captain himself. He says he checked the roster, and there's nobody by the name of the Carrie. Carrie's the girl. She's the girl who supposedly fell into the water and was or not fell into the water, but was pushed off by two people into the water. Carrie's her name. The same girl she met before she went to the party to borrow her mascara. One dressed in black, dark hair, 20-year-old looking. That Carrie. Apparently nobody's seen her. So Lo starts to feel, throughout the book, Lo starts to feel desperate, angry, completely alone, that she has no one on her side to ever prove this girl's existence. And she will not let it go. She won't turn a blind eye to it. She asks everybody around. She, as a journalist, as an investigative journalist, it's in her blood to to be pushy, to ask everybody questions, not leave anything unnoticed. And she even tries to enlist the help of her former journalist friend Ben, to help her, but he's reluctant. He may know something, but he doesn't. He's reluctant to help her out of fear of finding, getting involved in something that they're not supposed to be involved in. And this is where the character makes a mistake, in my opinion. She makes a mistake of contacting the captain of the ship, not the captain of the ship, but the rich owner, Richard Bulmer himself, on her whereabouts. And eventually, for powerful forces on the boat become suspicious of Lo. They don't like the fact that she keeps pushing everybody and getting too involved. So while Lo wakes up one day on the last day that everybody's supposed to be leaving and getting off the ship where the ship is supposed to be important, everybody's supposed to get off and reach their destination in Sweden. Lo sees a shadow at her door and she goes to investigate. When she looks outside, lo and behold, it's the missing girl, Carrie. She recognizes her immediately. The eyes and the body frame, it's her. And Carrie is just staring back at Lo because she knows she sees her, and Lo must know that she sees her. So Carrie turns slowly and walks towards this mysterious door. And Lo follows after her, of course, saying, "Hey, wait up! I've been looking for you." But the girl is too fast. She gets away and disappears behind the door. So by the time Lo follows her after and gets behind the door, catches up to her, lights go out, and Lo is attacked. Attacked and knocked out and dragged into this isolated room way down at the bowels of the ship and kept prisoner. She's left there for days. Little food, no contact with any other human being. And what's worse is that everybody seems to have she hears the dock lowering down and assumes that everybody has left. Now she's panicking that the ship's going to pull off. She's going to be trapped at sea and they might kill her, dump her body overboard, and silence her for good. But by the time the person who knocked her out and the person who dragged her in that room comes back to her, she's shocked to find out that the woman is Carrie. The woman has a shaved head and is wearing um, the clothes of Richard Bulmer's wife. Here's another plot twist. It turns out Richard Bulmer's wife, was never on board the ship. The person everybody saw at dinner was not Anne Bulmer. It was not her at all. It was actually Carrie, dressing up like um, Richard's deceased wife. Isn't that creepy? He's creepy. So Lo makes a plea with Carrie, the young girl, saying this is not right. He's using you. You're his prisoner. You have no say. You are completely under his control. And Carrie's struggling with this because she loves him. She loves the prestige. She loves the money and the power that comes along with being married to a man like him. But at the same time, Carrie Lo convinces her, um, "You have all this in exchange for what? Your soul, your self-control, your independence. He's taken that away from you and made you powerless." So eventually, Carrie does um, come to her aid and agrees with what she's saying. She's like, deep down, she never fully admits this, but she's like, "Damn, this woman's right. I have no power. This man is using me, making me pretend to be and dress up as his dead wife. How creepy is that?" So she helps Lo escape, and she tells her, they make each other exchange clothes. She gets the idea. I'll take off my clothes. I'll give them to you. You wear this dress. You'll wear this head wrap so you'll look like me. and I'll take your clothes and I'll look like you. It was like an old switcheroo. At first, Lo was like, "No, I don't want to leave you. That's not right. That doesn't feel right. You helped me. We should escape together." But they both they both know deep down that that's not possible. It will look too suspicious. So Lo eventually relents to the reluctantly agrees to the idea of switching clothes. And it was an intense scene. I mean, it was intense reading throughout the book because you don't know whether or not she's going to get away unscathed or not. She barely makes it when as she's dressed up as Carrie, wearing the headreb and wearing the dress and sneaking into Richard Bulmer's room to get the passports and the money that Carrie says is left there that she's going to give to her to Lo. As she's rummaging through his drawers trying to look for the passport and the money, Richard Bulmer comes into the room. Thankfully, it's dark. He doesn't see her right away, so she's able to sneak off the boat by standing on the boat's balcony, the window's balcony outside Richard Bulmer's cruise room. She does a very brave thing, extremely brave thing, plunges plunges into the icy, freezing water, wearing the dress and the head wrap that Carrie told her to put on. She swims, by the grace of God, she swims to shore unscathed. Very cold, very wet, but alive. And she's running through this isolated town. It's very late at night. All the shops and stores are closed. As she seeks refuge in a Swedish couple's home. But by this point, the ruse has been caught on. Richard knows that Lo has escaped and that Carrie has taken her place as their prisoner. So he contacts, using his influence, his wealthy influence and connections, he contacts the couple. The couple speaks in a Swedish language that Lo can understand. They say, Lo Blaylock. She can understand that. She hears her own name. She freaks out, like, oh no, he's discovered me. He knows where I am. As she escapes the couple's house, keeps running into the dark, running to the woods and in the countryside. She evades the police, who try to help her, but then she discovers that they are working and have been sent by Richard Bulmer. So she runs away from them some more and runs again until she finally seeks refuge in a local barn way off into the countryside. She's taken care of and nursed by this nice, very gentlemanly, angelic old farmer. He takes her in, and towards the end of the book, she's contacted and found by her family and her former boyfriend, who she reconciles with. And then, as she's laying in his apartment, she sees a news story. It turns out she sees Richard Bulmer's face, and it turns out he died. They say from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Here's another thing that I didn't mention. While Carey was in his cabin searching for the pass, sorry, Lo Blaylock was in Richard Bulmer's cabin searching for the passport and the money. She came across a gun. She was perplexed by this, but she didn't take it. And as she's watching this news report, it's finally dawned on her that was the gun. That was the gun that's the one that she found in his drawers was the one that had killed him. But the news report was saying that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And she's she tries to convince herself, even after suffering from PTSD and attempted kidnapping, that yes, he's really dead. He's really dead. You can relax. He's not gonna have to me to get me. So she's recovering from her ordeal. She's living with her boyfriend after reconciling with him a few weeks after this incident. This craziness occurred. She receives a mysterious letter with the initial C, which stands for Carrie. And all along, she's not. Lo doesn't know what happened to Carrie. She didn't know whether she lived, whether she survived Richard Bulmer, whether she lived or not. This mysterious letter she got with money inside of it. And the letter, the initial C, was an indication for her that Carrie had survived. That she was okay. She knew where she was out there, but that she was okay. And that was the main thing. And what I liked about that book, it was that the girl, At the end, she developed a heart. She had, developed a heart afterwards. She wasn't cold and heartless like all those other rich people, like her rich husband, Richard Bowler. She wasn't a cold-hearted person like him. She had a heart. She had a soul, and she was looking out for this other woman who was being severely victimized. I definitely like that book. Yeah, The Cabin in Lake Ten. That and The Bell Jar. Please get those two books. I really recommend them. You won't be disappointed. And yeah, that's it. And if you like to continue, really like my video, please drop a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.